And they're off in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. From the outside, Silver Bay has hustled hard to try to get over from her outside draw. Moving out the rail, 831 has speed, and so does Take Charge Paula. And 831 and Take Charge Paula land 1-2. Cash now takes a joint third with Silver Bay on her outside. Alter Moon is 3 wide. Then back to Tell Your Mama. Coach Rocks is off the speed today. She's about 5 lengths off the lead.
When she got all that trouble down on the backside, I says, oh boy, what a bad trip. You know, never gave her a shot to get up, you know, and I see her when he tipped her out, and she was actually about 8 wide when they had her turned for home, and then I just said, I said, wow, I said, we got a shot to win this thing. And
Coach Rock's trying to get to Take Charge Paula. She is, and this is going to get close. They run to the first line with Coach Rocks overhauling Take Charge Paula to win. The Gulfstream Park Oaks going away.
Man, she just put on a sterling performance, and I can't thank Dale Romans enough.
Happy to be here on Florida Derby Day, and we're happy to kick off the show. Speaking of Florida Derby Day, Gulfstream Park Oaks Day as well, and one of the contenders, one of the solid contenders, Coach Rocks, from our friend Roddy Valente, as well as Rick Pitino and West Point Thoroughbreds. Roddy, good morning.
Good morning, Seth.
Excited?
Very. Very.
I imagine. And why don't we start out with Coach Rocks? We're going to pull up the Maiden Breaker back on February 14th. The guys in the studio will run that while we're talking. Coach Rocks is going to be the number 8 horse. I was handicapping earlier with Brian Addo, and I put Coach Rocks on top. Looking at that race, looking at the recent works, it just seems like the light bulb has turned on for her.
I agree. I think I actually think that the distance helped her. The 2 turns helped her probably even more, Seth.
Coach Rocks to the first finish line, widening the advantage. Coach Rocks with an easy win.
Coach Rocks, love the name because you're partnered with Rick Pitino, and of course the Rocks name referring to you and a lot of the stones and the gravel and the rocks you have in the names of your horses. How'd you get teamed up with Rick Pitino?
when I was down there last year, he had called me and wanted me to buy a horse with him that was in the sale, and quite honestly, I didn't like the horse, and I took a pass on it. And then, ironically, the following week, I'm coming out of the track, and Dale was out having dinner, and he grabbed me and he said, "Rod, I got a filly over in the barn," he says, "that I bought at the sale." He said, "I don't have an owner for it." He said, "I'd like you to buy this filly." I said, "I'll be by in the morning." I took a look at her, and I fell in love with her. You know, it's Oxbow's first crop, and she's pretty too. She's got a really beautiful face. But going back to Rick, I just felt obligated, you know, being that he reached out to me to go in partners with him. So I had given him the opportunity, and he went over the next morning, and he was in love with her. So, you know, that's how we got started.
I just came in 2 weeks ago. I had no intent to buy part of her. I saw her work, and I was with Roddy and Dale Romans and Coach Pitino, and I saw her work, and I said, "Who is that?" I'm not kidding. I said, "Who is that?" And Coach Rocks, and then we go back to the barn, and I said, "Hey, is there any shot that we could get a little piece of that?" And they were very grateful. I was very grateful that we got a shot to get in, but we're a silent partner. We're third in line, but we're very happy that we're in that line. So,
you and I were talking yesterday, and it's a little bit different than the boys going the mile and a quarter in the Derby, but it's still a concern for the fillies to stretch out to that mile and an eighth, and it's always a big question mark. You feel that the longer the distance, the better she'll be.
I think from here on out, if she's fortunate enough to go forward from today's race, I think the mile and an eighth is going to be better for her. And you always look and dream for the future in this game because you never know when you're going to end up. But I think even a mile and a quarter, I mean, she's a big strapping filly, and it's showing now.
We're talking now a couple of weeks away from the Kentucky Oaks, but as you say, she worked out this morning, and certainly the fractions and the final time, very, very good. The report's very good. Give us a little update on that workout this morning.
I talked to Dale right after, and yesterday he told me he can go on. They got a special feed that they have the Derby horses and the Oaks horses work in an hour. They're the only horses allowed on the track, and Tammy worked her. Tammy called me this morning too after the work, and she just said, "I could not be any happier with this filly going into this race." He says, she said they gave me the splits, and when you're going 22 46, and she 59 flat, and she galloped out in 11-4. And she said, Rod, the thing is, you know, she goes on her own, just lets her do what she wants to do. But she said, with her long stride, I have no idea that I'm going that fast. So she takes care of herself. She's a smart filly.
But even better, Dale being a Kentucky guy, he's in Louisville. So the workout, the last workout and this morning's workout, she's getting a good familiarity with the Churchill Downs strip, and to see her work well over Churchill Downs, which can be quirky for some horses, that's got to give you some confidence too.
It does. You know, that's what Dale said. He shipped her home. That's his home base, naturally, Dale being a Louisville guy. And they flew her home the Sunday after the race set that you were down there for, and it's nice because she acclimates well to the track. She trains over the track. You know, it gives you a little bit more confidence when they're going to bring her over and school her for a race of this caliber. So, you know, that being said, it's exciting. It really is exciting.
And it's not bad to have Dale in your camp either, because it was just last fall he became the winningest trainer ever at Churchill Downs.
Took that away from Bill Ma. Yeah, you know, he's been driving me kind of crazy, saying, "Get down here." He says, "You're going to enjoy it." So I'm going to be down for the next work. I'm going to leave Thursday and then stay right through. I've never played at this level, so I'm going to go down. He says, "You got to come down and experience it." So
it's funny, as we planned this interview yesterday, I went back and you were on with me our first show of the year, January 6th, and following you on that show, we had Dale by phone, and you said, "Hey, ask Dale when Coach Rocks is going to get a win." And so when I had Dale on, I did. Dale just sat down, and in the studio I was talking live with owner Roddy Valenti. He wanted me to ask about Coach Rocks.
Well, if he quit meddling with me and let me train my horse the way I want to, we'd do super with Coach Rocks. Yeah, Roddy's got a good filly down here. Him and Coach Patino both are partners on this filly, and she's when she breaks her, she'll be one of those. She's had a couple of tough beat seconds. When she breaks her maiden, she's going to go on and do some spectacular stuff for us. You know, Roddy's one of the great owners of this game that knows the game inside and out, and a good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's. It was fun. It's always fun to have him in, but he said it pretty much the same thing. A couple of tough beats maybe, but she had a win sitting out there pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. You know the funny part, Seth, when she ran her first race, it was at Saratoga, and we were in the paddock, and I'm with a good friend of mine, Zach Passaretti, and Dale turned around and he says, she made a turn in the paddock, and he said, "I'm going to win a stake with that filly." And Zach looked at me and he says, "I hope this guy knows what he's talking about." And we chuckled because, you know, when you got a baby, everybody thinks you're going to win a stake, and then when he won the stake, I was first to remind him of that, and I reminded Zach as well, so it's kind of fun.
We're going to be rooting for you in a couple of weeks down at Churchill Downs, so we just want to wish you a lot of good luck in the Oaks. I said to you before, any sport, you always like to root for the home team, and guys like you are our home team, so we're behind you, and best of luck.
I appreciate that. It's fun to enjoy it because, you know, a lot of people here follow horse racing in our area, and so many people have become in touch with this horse, and it's fun. It's just a rush that, you know, I hope, you know, she makes it there in good health. You still got to sweat out 13 days, but hopefully the good Lord's looking down on us that day. So,
Roddy Valenti, Coach Rocks, coming up in the Kentucky Oaks.